So today we're going to talk about some nice girl habits I think all women should break. And I just want to be candid with everyone to say that I actually saw this title on one of my contemporaries, Matt Boggs. I also believe several other of my contemporaries have used this title. So I thought I'd jump in and have this conversation as well. So when I think of the term being nice, I don't know if you heard this, but I heard this years ago that being nice is not telling people what you really think. I'm going to repeat that, not telling people what you really think or how you really feel about them. And I'm sure you can relate to this. I'm sure you have been polite to someone who wasn't kind to you. I'm sure there's been moments where someone was probably even a little disrespectful to you, and out of common courtesy, you were nice to the person or you were graceful. You even held space that maybe they're just having a bad day or whatnot. Okay, I'm not really talking about that kind of nice, okay, where we bite our tongue. I'm talking about when we give our power away to someone else. When we give our power away to someone else, that's one of the things I see habitually within women, and I want to lean into this conversation. Now, I don't know if you're like me. I'm a recovering people pleaser, so I have a propensity to want to be nice. I think the reason why this happened in my life, I vividly remember when I was in grade school. And quite frankly, I was picked on by a lot of the kids. I always felt very awkward because I was from immigrant parents. Parents were from another country. Actually, my parents were from Istanbul, Turkey. And I remember I was last to be picked in games. So I went out of my way to try to get people to like me. Let me get that. I went out of my way to get people to like me. And because of that, I adopted people pleaser habits, or habits of being nice to other people, because I wanted people to like me. I wanted the kids to like me. And that certainly has been a residue in my life as I've been an adult. I really have issues with someone not liking me. And again, we could get into the roots of why this happens from an emotional perspective that's mostly centered around something that happened in our childhood. This bleeds into our adult life, particularly when it comes to relationships. Now, I think women are also unique. And I mentioned earlier about giving your power away. I think on some instinctual level, women give their power away because from cave people days to, up until a few hundred years ago, women were predominantly dependent upon men for survival, both that physical survival and certainly for those that are even currently dependent upon men from a financial perspective of survival. So oftentimes women give their power away, and this isn't singular to women. Men give their power away. Women give their power away. It's usually, it's something both, I think, I said earlier, I think it's somewhat instinctual why this happens. I think women have a greater propensity to want commitment more so than men. I think women bond to men a little bit stronger than the other way around. And again, this isn't an absolute, but I do believe that these are some of the reasons why women oftentimes compromise themselves in relationship. And I want to lean into a conversation later about how to break this cycle, certainly break this cycle of being too nice. Now, I want to, before I get into these 6 nice girl habits, I just want to merely say we all as human beings, I think deep down want to feel loved. We want to feel loved. I think it's just very complicated, particularly for those of us in midlife, because many of our childhood wounds and traumas and adult traumas begin to bubble up to the surface. I mentioned to you before, I'm a recovering people pleaser. This isn't something I've healed completely. This is something I've been working on for decades. And what's most important is the awareness of your negative patterns and your limiting beliefs in your life, particularly about others, and more importantly, about oneself, how we can oftentimes self-sabotage through what's going on between our ears due to a lack of self-love. And it's one of the reasons why I wrote a book called What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, and Spiritual Work. And I'll be candid with you. By the way, there's a link below to get a copy of all the books I recommend in the Jonathan Recommend book section. Why I'm bringing this up is, folks, I've been at this for over 20 years, peeling the onion, and maybe many of you are in the same boat. You are peeling the onion of your negative patterns, your limiting beliefs, the stories you say about yourself, particularly in the area of worthiness. You know, when I think of self-love, I think of self-worth, self-esteem, self-reliance, self-confidence, self-respect. These are all encompassed in the word love, in my opinion. And so when we're approaching, romantic relationships, particularly for those of us who have an anxious attachment style, if you're not familiar with love attachment style, I highly recommend checking out the book by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller called Attached. Why I'm bringing this up is if you are like me, an anxious love attacher, we tend to gravitate to what's known as avoidant love attachers. And avoidants have a difficult time expressing themselves. And yet, because of deep wounds that happened in their childhood, they weren't valued, they weren't allowed to be themselves. And this is true for anxious as well. They weren't allowed to be themselves. So they withdrew within, and oftentimes they have a real difficult time being emotionally expressive. So whereas the anxious person is kind of, feeds on validation, feeds on getting, the other person's approval. And so what happens is we fall into this pattern of being nice because we want someone else to like us. And in a romantic relationship, you can be entwined with someone and still be feeling lack within the relationship. This is a very common experience for many couples. And for the avoidants, they're not oftentimes aware of this. They don't have a consciousness around this. Many anxious people don't have an awareness around this. So what happens is they butt heads in a relationship. And then because it isn't easy, it isn't working, they break apart. And oftentimes, if you're in the anxious role, it feels like such a hole has been created in our heart, and we crave that other person filling that hole. And so we do everything to be nice in the relationship to keep this relationship going. By the way, when I say we, I'm aware of this because this is something that's happened in my life. So I'm aware of my own, I don't want to say deficiencies or weaknesses or flaws or just aspects of my personality, but I'm bringing this up because it's incumbent upon me to work on my own feelings, and the person that you're in relationship works on their feelings. And hopefully the two of you rise together in this particular case where you can actually grow and bond with one another. And yet, so all too often, women try much harder to keep the relationship going when it's not really a valid relationship. So we're going to talk about the early stages of being nice, not so much being in a significant relationship. And maybe we'll uncover some patterns you're experiencing in your life. And maybe you can heal this for yourself. So the first one that's listed is saying yes to an instant relationship before the relationship has been established. Again, we're talking about the early stages. This is the tricky part because ladies, men have a propensity to get overly excited when the chemical cocktail of dopamine and testosterone mix together, and these chemicals get released in our brain, believing that we really like a person when we're actually experiencing lust or limerence. Let me repeat that, lust or limerence. And limerence is just simply extreme infatuation. And lust is, I want to have sex with you. I would say most men, when they're coming on strong, they're love bombing, they're really trying to push for a relationship early, it's because they're in a state of lust or limerence. And you might find yourself temporarily saying yes to a relationship. And what I mean temporarily is usually that fizzles out much sooner. So my invitation for you, just like my mother used to say to my father, she goes, I used to take what your father said with a grain of salt. In the early stages, if two people are rushing to bond together, that's usually not a good sign, because the healthy relationships actually tend to grow at a very calm pace. A very calm pace. It's not a rush pace. So if you find yourself saying yes to an instant relationship, it might be because you're experiencing this, he's experiencing this. And I invite you just to take it a little bit slower in those early stages. Okay, number 2, you cancel your plans to accommodate his schedule. You cancel your plans to accommodate his schedule. You know, I see this with women a lot, particularly in long distance dynamics. I'm finding that so many women will drive to men's locations, as one example, but more importantly, cancel plans with their friends just to accommodate the man. Now, folks, it's critically important to have balance in your life, to have that balance between your work, your family, your friends, your health. And in the early stages, while it might, the thing is, it's okay to I don't want to say it's okay. I was about to say it's okay to cancel a plan to be with someone if it happens to be, there's a time slot available, for this person, and for other reasons there's not. It's okay to do that. But if you find yourself habitually canceling your plans, habitually, not avoiding friends, but canceling on your friends or canceling on the things in your life, that's not a good sign. That's a sign it might seem like a sign you're chasing him. That's not really it, because I think you're just doing your best to make effort. But I wouldn't do it on a habitual basis. Is that sinking in? Okay, I hope so. Okay, number 3, you try to get him to like you before you know if you like him. You try to get him to like you before you know if you like him. Again, as a recovering people pleaser, I know I have that propensity in a date. And I think men do this in the dating process because we have to, we tend to be the leaders. We tend to have to show our peacock feathers. So we tend to do this. But that's not healthy for men, and that's not healthy for women either. To try to get the person to like you before you even know you like them. Now, certainly there are signs in the early stages you might be connecting with someone. That's great. But I think, as I've said repeatedly, Jay Shetty says it takes about 40 hours of face-to-face time to build a friendship with someone, about 40 hours of face-to-face time. And then it takes about I always say it takes about 100 hours of face-to-face time just to build the first layer of trust. And Jay Shetty goes on to say that it takes about 200 hours of face-to-face time to really develop a friendship with someone. Now, I'm not suggesting, 200 hours, that's a lot of time together. Even 100 hours is a lot of time together. But think about it. Can you really get to know someone on 1, 2, or 3 dates? Not really. In fact, you really don't know someone until you live with them. And believe me, I have seen so many couples spend years in these prolongated relationships. And then the minute they actually live together, it implodes. I've often said, or lately I've said, I'm not so certain we shouldn't just immediately live with people just to see who they really are and then make our decisions. But coming back to this, trying to get someone to like you is a people-pleasing mechanism, because we want to be liked. Most everybody wants to be liked. Even when I was talking about avoidance earlier, avoidance deep down want to feel loved. They were just they were rejected as children for being their authentic selves, and so they have a difficult time trusting people. It's almost as if they don't trust love. It's not like they're doing this intentionally. I'm here to say most human beings, men in particular, most men are good people. They're not intentionally using you. It only feels like being used because they're operating in the initial stages from this lust or limerence. And then when they actually calm their nervous system, they recognize that they're not, many of them are not capable of anything overtly serious. And so they end relationships, and you might feel like you've gotten used. And for the people pleaser, for the nice person, it feels doubly painful because you've oftentimes given more in the relationship than he has. Okay. Number 4, saying yes to sex before you're ready. Saying yes to sex before you're ready. I have an acronym I want someone to write this in the chat box. I want you to write the words C period, A period, R period, E period, S period, cares. Okay. This is my acronym to help you kind of navigate when to have sex with someone. The C stands for comfortable. The C stands for comfortable. Do not have sex until you feel comfortable. Never put yourself, or do your best not to put yourself in environments where it could lead to sex. But more importantly, and alcohol can be a real, a motivate, not a motivator, but it's a cocktail can turn into dropping boundaries. So do your best to not put yourself in those circumstances. But more importantly, do not have sex with someone until you feel comfortable with them as a person. That's the C. The A stands for awareness. Awareness. Be aware of the consequences, meaning if you have a habit of bonding to someone the first time you have sex with them, then it's going to require a longer period of time for you to build trust with this person. I repeat that, a longer period of time to build trust. Okay. If you have a propensity, not every woman bonds to a man the first, second, or third time they have sex with them. In fact, I know a lot of women that are actually okay even when they have sex with someone, that they're not strung out, they're not jonesing, they're not on the crack cocaine of abandoning themselves, giving their power away to a man. But if that's something that happens with you, then be aware of it. The R stands for real intentions, real intentions. And what I mean to say is learn his real intentions. Is he serious does he want a significant relationship, or is he looking to just have something casual? I want to take it slow. I want no pressure. So you have to learn his real intentions. Men like myself, the grower and builders, okay, grower and builders are men who know they want a significant relationship with someone. So they approach relationship different than the users. Those are the people that are in it for the short run, and the spenders who want companionship, connection, and sex on an occasional basis, but they're not ready for commitment. So you got to learn his real intentions. It's one of the reasons why I'm so grateful. My clients, achieve great results because they practice something I work with them on called radical honesty, pre-qualifying your prospect. It's all about learning his real intentions sooner rather than later. The E stands for exclusivity. Exclusivity. If you're going to have regular sex with someone, I believe there should be monogamy involved. In other words, an agreement between two people. And more importantly, there should be an agreement that you're not actively seeking to meet other people while you're in this container of having sex with this person. I'm a big believer of exclusivity. Now, a lot of people get hung up on this, but what's so wrong with talking about monogamy when you're having regular sex with someone? And what's so wrong about exclusivity? But Jonathan, men get afraid, get scared by the word commitment. You should make commitments to one another. You're engaging in a physical act with someone. You have every right to establish some standards and some boundaries with this person. And I'm here to invite you all to be more empowered in this place instead of passively, because you're trying to please him. And the S stands for safe. Safe. Be safe. Now, that means maybe having STD tests. Maybe that's having condoms. But recognize that being safe both on getting cooties is what I talk about, catching a disease, but also be in an environment, coming back to what I talked about, maybe not, alcohol can drop a lot of boundaries. So make sure you're in a safe space before you engage in physical intimacy with someone. And I call that cares. Hey, I hope that helps. All right. With respects to not jumping into bed with someone too quickly before you've really established where you stand in your heart when it comes to physical intimacy. Number 5, investing more in the relationship than he does. Women, the thing is, I've said this before. I even like what Matthew Hussey talks about. He says, invest and test. Invest and test. And I'm a big proponent of two people mutually making effort in the relationship. And if you're trying to get him to like you, if you're making more overtures to pull him over the 50-yard line to come to you, then it's an imbalanced relationship. So you shouldn't be investing more in the relationship than he does. It should be a nice ping pong game, a nice balance, a nice pickleball game between the two of you, a nice rally of mutual effort. Okay. And number 6, giving an undeserved second chance to someone. I see this happen a lot. A man's actions hasn't matched his words. He's been inconsistent. He's been flaky. He might have even gone off the rails, so to speak. And you give someone an undeserved second chance. Now, I recognize that's a sign of oftentimes a people pleaser or a nice person, because you most likely believe that this is the only person that is going to fulfill you. You feel like just because he checks the boxes, you feel some chemistry, that he's the only person on the planet will feel this, and you'll give him a second chance. I'm not a big proponent. Now, again, there's always exceptions to the rule. There's always extenuating circumstances, but be mindful. If this is a habit for you, again, these are habits, then it's time to break that cycle. So how do we break this cycle? One is to stand in your power. We talked about the book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? One of the other things I invite everyone to do is a better job of vetting men, because you don't need to be, in your nice girl habits when you've done better job of vetting out the wrong men, so you don't find yourself being overly attached to the wrong guy. But at the same time, I invite everyone to begin a meditation practice. I invite everyone to start going to therapy or going to personal development workshops to see what your negative patterns and limiting beliefs are in your life in your totality, and begin to become aware of your patterns. And if you have a pattern, then it's time to recognize. Let me share you an example. After my divorce, I had 100 internet first dates, meet and greets, 100 first in the first year. I was going off one after another, and I'd meet a nice gal. We'd have a good time, but something wasn't right. I'd meet someone else, have a nice time, and something wasn't right. And I kept blaming the women as being the common denominator, until a year afterwards, I go, wait a minute. I'm the common denominator in all my experiences. It's not them. Sure, I met a variety of different women. Some were entitled, some were a doormat, some were wounded, some didn't match my lifestyle. But I was the common denominator in all my unpleasant experiences in my life to some degree, particularly because I'm a recovering people pleaser. Sadly, I sometimes need a lot of validation because I'm not good at regulating my own emotions. And I suspect maybe you've experienced this as well. So first and foremost, if you're walking down a street and you see a deep hole in the sidewalk and you see it there, meaning you're people pleasing or your nice girl habits, first be aware of it. And then you can begin working on it. And understand that mindfulness is a daily practice. Mindfulness is a daily practice. And I say this because even in my life, I sometimes get out of my practice. And what happens when I get out of my practice? I go off the rails. It's a daily practice, and invite everyone. And if you need help with this, I highly recommend another book. I love this book. It's called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. I highly recommend getting this book. It helps you talk to the voices in your head. Oh my God, and then his companion book, The Surrender Experiment. Highly recommend getting this book. It will really help you break, even though it has nothing to do with relationship, it'll help you break those nice girl habits. Okay, hope you found value in this. If you did, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. If you did, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell. And if you want to connect with me, check out the description below to see all the different ways you can connect with me. All right, those that know my live format, this is time for Q&A. If you have a question, write the word question in the chat box if you're on live right now. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. All of the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley. That's a picture of him right there. He's my son who sadly passed away 5 years ago. And in his honor, I've started a scholarship fund to donate to causes like the Hoffman Process Insight Institute. And we just made a donation to Seeds of Love. Seeds of Love is an organization that helps children in the country of Colombia who have been abandoned by their parents because they have a terminal disease. So if you'd like to donate today to those causes, hit that little super sticker, super chat, then write your question there. And I'll certainly give you some props in the video as well. And if you're watching the replay, hit the super thanks. All right, let's see what we got in the way of questions. Someone says, Kim says, the Charlie Sheens of our world are exclusive with whomever is next. That is possibly true. All right. Kim Gordon says, people pleasing is a result of parental grooming, what we did to gain love. You know, she does bring up a good point. I shared about my childhood on the playground and how I felt so, what's the word I'm looking for? Not unloved, but just, you know, on some level undesired to be like, you know, to play in the games. I was always the last person. I was trying to make friends with everyone. At the same time, I had that same experience with my mother, trying to get my mother's love as a little 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old boy. Because my mother had a habit of doing what's called stonewalling. She had a habit of going in her own shell because she didn't know how to regulate her emotions. And in those moments when I was a little boy craving, some connection with mommy, if you will, not from a needy place, just from a healthy place, I began becoming a people pleaser unbeknownst to myself. So Kim, thanks for bringing that to our awareness as well. Nobleness Nutrition says, reading recommended books on healing anxious attachment. I do well for about a week, but still get activated after a week of not hearing his voice or visit from him. Struggle is real. Yes, and what's most important, why you most likely have attracted that kind of person in your life, is because learning to regulate one's emotions requires mindfulness, and it's an inner journey. So what does God, universe, spirit, I call him Gus, God, universe, spirit, Gus, what do? They put people in your lives that will trigger you so you can actually learn to regulate your own emotions. I fully believe in a divine intervention, divine, there are no accidents. There are no coincidences. We invite people into our lives, particularly from a romantic perspective, to help us heal where our heart needs to be healed. That's my invitation. That's my perspective anyway. Hey, one of our members from the Facebook group, folks, if you'd like to have direct access to me on a regular basis, you might want to check out my group called Midlife Love Mastery. This is a group where you can connect with me. We have a Facebook page. And I shoot videos and I speak to the members in the group regularly. So if you go to my website, jonathanhasley.com, you can check out my group there if you're interested, especially if you have a Facebook page. So here's one of our members who wrote, I agreed to meet someone for coffee, even though I don't find him attractive. If our personalities don't match, as a people pleaser, how can I let them down easily? You know, if Marie was here, and there's a picture of her, I think she has a diplomatic nature and she's very direct with people. Just say, Tim, I think you're a really nice person. I don't feel like we're a match. And I just want to be upfront with you about that. And I want to wish you all the best. That's simply what you can say. I don't feel like we're a match. Now, if he starts asking why, just say, I prefer to keep that private to myself and just wanted to be forthright with you. You seem like a really good person. This is not a reflection of you. This is a reflection of my inner voice speaking that we're not a match. That's how Marie would most likely poise it or position it. And I invite you to use her language because she was very effective of that. She'd meet someone on a meet and greet. She wasn't feeling it for whatever reason. And she would simply say, I don't feel like we're a match. All right. Kim Gordon goes on to say, meditation on why we are valuable helps. Yes, meditation allows us to talk to the voices in our head, to calm our nervous system. One of the things most humans have a difficult time doing is regulating our nervous system. And so mindfulness breath work. I should have mentioned breath work. Meditation is about learning to breathe. Our breath is a powerful instrument to calm our nerves. In addition, if you're not familiar with the Hawaiian forgiveness prayer, can someone write that in the chat box? Hawaiian forgiveness prayer, also known as the Ho'oponopono. I believe I said that right. I might have butchered that. The Ho'oponopono. Now, the way I learned it was like this, and it can go, there's basically 4 sentences. I usually start with the first sentence, I love you. The second sentence, I'm sorry. The third sentence, please forgive me. And the fourth sentence, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. Thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. Now, forgiveness, forgiving love. Forgiving love. It's like giving yourself a shot. You're actually doing it for yourself. It's not about forgiving someone else. It's really forgiving that little child inside of you that gets so scared, that reacts to people, that judges people, that makes assumptions. So forgiveness is an opportunity to learn. By the way, by habitually saying this, and I say it to myself on a regular basis, it allows you to calm your nervous system. So I invite you all. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I think some versions of it go, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. And some versions go the other way around. That's the way I learned it. So I invite you to practice the Hawaiian forgiveness prayer, also known as the Ho'oponopono. Richa says, do men care about stretch marks and cellulite? I'm insecure about it and fear physical intimacy. Men care about your vagina, especially as we age. That's all we care about. We also do care about blowjobs too. We care about oral sex, and we care. Now, most men as we age don't, I mean, listen, my sweetheart's got some wrinkles. She's got a little bit of what you just described. Believe me, I've got wrinkles. I've got some of it as well. I think when we're really connected with someone on a heart-centered level, all those little things don't matter as much. But believe me, men care more about the vagina, and they care about blowjobs. So let that one go. I love the right man appreciates my body. The right man appreciates my body. The right woman appreciates my body. Janet goes on to say, I agree. Mindfulness is a daily practice. The days I don't do it, my emotions stray off a healing path. Exactly. Today, I'm off to do a plant-based medicine spiritual journey to work on some stuff. Folks, I'm not here to profess I know many of you think I'm the unicorn out there. Believe me, I am riddled with negative patterns, limiting beliefs in my life, a lack of worthiness at times. And so I do practices to help me shore up my mindfulness to regulate my emotions, because the more in tune we are to our divine self, the more attuned we are to our emotional self, the happier life tends to be. Just seems to be happier. At least that's my invitation for everyone. I hope it's the same for everyone else. All right, Wanda's in the house and she says, I'm still a nice person no matter what. Will that always attract users? But I do have a red flag vibe right off, hoping that helps. So if you attract users, let's look at this from a spiritual perspective. Why do you think that is? Why would you attract someone who isn't right for you? It's most likely, I believe we are all on a journey of healing. I really do believe it. I think we come to this. I think, I'm not so certain hell isn't, living on the planet Earth. Okay. But I think and I'm saying this tongue in cheek, but I really do believe we come here to heal that wound of lack of self-love. I think everything that takes us off our happy trail, if you will, is an opportunity to love yourself. And so we invite people in our lives that will trigger us. Some people we invite in for just a few weeks, a few months, maybe a few years, maybe a lifetime, to help us learn to love ourselves. A lot of people never get there. They operate from a dependency place. They operate from a deficiency place, and they come back and do this again and again through multiple lifetimes. I'm not so certain we don't relive the same. I'm a believer that time might be stand still to some degree, and we come back at the same age, do this over again, just in a different body to heal those places. Who knows? It's fast. I have no idea what happens to us when we pass away. But I like the thought that time is not a constant, and our spirit is universal. And so we come back to practice different things. So when we can come at it from a place of almost like it's a game, from a fun perspective, we don't have to get meshed up in the weeds. And could I be wrong? Could when we pass away, there's simply a dial tone? Yeah, a lot of atheists, a lot of agnostics believe that. Religious people have a different perspective on it. Spiritual people have a different perspective on it as well. I read the book. I did a study group for 3 years about the Course in Miracles. Here's a copy of it. By the way, look how effing thick this sucker is. I spent 3 years with the study group exploring this. And I can tell you that I found it fascinating, particularly in the concept of death. In fact, I was reading it at the time Connor passed away, and I have a whole different perspective on this. You might also want to check out the work of Ram Dass. Ram Dass, when we can conquer our fears, particularly around death, we actually tend to live a happier life. So anyways, check out those works. So thank you, Wanda. I appreciate that. Jane's in the house. A man I dated a couple times is doing the slow fade on me, but he's still texting daily with hearts. What do I say to him to either stop the text or get him to step up and ask me out? Well, Jane, call him up. What are you doing tonight? I'd like to take you out for a drink. See how he responds. And then when you're at a drink with him, just simply say, look, what are we doing? What are we doing? You send me heart text messages. What does that mean? Okay. Come on. You're a man. Come on. You don't seem like a wimp. You don't seem like a flake. You don't seem like a loser. So what's going on with you? You can ask him out. See, by the way, how he responds will give you an indication. And if he's acting very coy or gives excuses, then you can simply say, look, I just want to disengage from this dynamic. It's just not, it's not appealing to me. It's not very exciting. Thank you for the hearts. I really appreciate it. When you figure out what you want, find another woman and focus on her. Jane, I hope that helps. Cam writes, how do you manage rumination, when off the rails, Jonathan? I will tell you, Kim, I habitually say the Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian forgiveness prayer over and over and over when I'm ruminating. I also have another practice. I say in my head, blah, 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 blah. Was that in a Seinfeld episode? What I'm doing is trying to regulate my emotions, and then I immediately begin to listen to an Abraham Hicks podcast, CD, YouTube video. Write this down, Abraham Hicks. Understanding that our thoughts create our feelings. So what I do in those moments is do my best to choose new thoughts. And when I catch myself going down the rabbit hole, I do it again. And when I catch myself going down that rumination, I do it again. And it's a practice to get out of that cycle, those loops, and it takes mindfulness to get there. Kim, thank you. Our Facebook member says, love that, Gus, God, universe, spirit. Thank you so much. And Annie writes, hello, I'm new here. I broke up with my boyfriend yesterday. We dated for 4.5 years. We had an argument and he said, before you speak, think with your F head. I responded, I'll report you, Dubai. He blocked me. I don't understand why you would report him. But thank you for sharing your experience. We're sending you a lot of hugs and love in this time of probably a bit of uncertainty. So Tammy writes, I am a 16-month in window after 40 years of fairly good marriage. Please give an example clarification. I talked with a guy straight to sex question. I think he love bombed me. And then your question is, please give me an example of love bombing. I am a new widow, 16 months in and just beginning to date. I've talked to a man on Facebook and I think he love bombed me. Please clarify me. Love bombing is basically, the way I interpret it, is an aggressive, I say aggressive, it's over the top, infatuation, over the top, claiming how you are so special, how you're so different, how you're unique. And it's mostly conversation about how great you are, okay? How wonderful you are. How, I won the lottery, all basically giving a lot of love attention to you without really understanding who you are as a person, finding out about your past relationships, doing an autopsy of your life, if you will. They're more focused on giving you a lot of attention, enthusiasm, centered around making you feel good, without really building the deep roots of trust needed to sustain a healthy, happy relationship. So that's usually what a love bomber is, an over-exaggerated infatuation towards you and not really trying to get to know you, okay? Hey, one of our Facebook members has just jumped in. When starting the divorce process 8 years ago, prior to a lot of self-work, I once had a therapist tell me you have an eccentric tolerance for bad behavior. This was so directly related to my childhood with my mom. I complete people-pleasing dynamic. I can relate. Yeah, sweetheart, I get it. I am a recovering people pleaser. A lot of people are. Maria says men care about the vagina. Yeah, I said that. I was just on the rails there for a second. Janet wants to bring up love bombing, saying, I love you far too early, buying expensive gifts, a week at the Savoy, tea at the Ritz, bought me a sports car. I was love bombed. Then the abuse began. Love bombing is part of a narcissistic cycle of manipulation and fakery. That is possibly true. I know I have love bombed. I don't believe I'm a narcissist. I might have some of the characteristics of it. I do recognize I can be self-centric at times. I do believe I have a capacity to apologize, and believe me, I've stuck my foot in my mouth so many times, so I know I don't have that trait within me because I've apologized. Most people don't know how to do a sincere apology when they've been, for lack of a better word, wrong. But yes, narcissists tend to be love bombers as well. Carla says, is that Marianne Williamson? So one of Marianne Williamson has done a deep dive for years in the Course in Miracles. So it's not that she wrote the book, but she is one of the preeminent scholars in that study. So yes. One of our Facebook members comes in. I've given someone that I'm very attracted to a lot of second chances. I really love him, but he has a lot of wounds and traumas and has an avoidant attachment. Any tips for really letting go? I'm doing inner work. I try to meet new men. I have looked on dating sites. There doesn't seem to be any men of depth and high quality who are also doing the work. Well, I was on the dating site and I did the work, and I have a lot of friends. So, here's the thing. First, I want to address the dating sites. Dating sites, dating apps are merely a tool to meet people outside of your regular circle of influence. Just remember, folks, most of us in midlife are not surrounded by a group of single eligible people in our daily lives. It's difficult to connect with someone at work. So dating apps have filled the gap. In fact, to some degree, it's created opportunities that wouldn't have otherwise existed. I don't think I would have met my sweetheart if it wasn't for a dating site. Okay. Now, where do you meet people that are into personal development, self-help, and spiritual work? You have to go to workshops, yoga centers. There are plenty of places that are doing mindfulness, meditation classes. And while there's a lot of women there, there are men there as well. Start to go to places where those men hang out, and you'll start to meet more men that way. And certainly do a better job of screening through the dating apps as well. That's something I teach in my private coaching. Michelle wants to remind me, yada, yada, yada. I think, that was the Seinfeld one, yada, yada, yada. I always go blah, 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 blah. Exactly, Jessica, blah, 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 blah. I will definitely use that. It helps work. It helps for me. I invite it for you as well. Heather, if you have a question, please post it. I didn't see it, okay? Nobleness of nutrition. Sent while fixing message. Avoidant wants me to wait till this 2-year vision comes to play. He's 51. I'm 46. If someone wants you to wait, that means that timing isn't right for them. So in that particular case, go off and do your journey. He can do his journey. And if you cross paths in the future, then see how it relates then. But take separate journeys. Disconnect while he's doing whatever he needs to do. Focus on what you need to do. Please don't get into incessant communication. That is a recipe for disaster when someone isn't ready. Okay, Heather's question. What do you think about gym guys? I go to the gym, but I fear they are vain guys. Taking care of someone's health, taking someone's body, I don't think is vanity per se. I think it's an important thing to create longevity in one's life. So I'm not going to suggest there aren't good people there. Yoga is a good place to connect with people. I went to the yoga studio at the gym. But I don't want to characterize, yes, some people, they put more of their energy into their body than they do their mindfulness. That's possibility. There might be vain people. By the way, have you ever looked on Instagram how many vain women there are? We are in a society of vanity simply through our devices. So rather than making a judgment out of it, just simply say, it's raining great men. It's raining great men. It's raining great men everywhere. Let's keep going. Sue says, going to the gym is not vain, arrogant thing as women go in droves to get better body image for health. Exactly. Exactly. All right, let's see what else we have here. Do you have a question? Oh, by the way, folks, listen, if I provided value to this point, please purchase a super sticker, super chat. I'd really like to donate some money to the Connor Asley Scholarship Fund. Hit that little $sign in the chat box. If you're watching the replay, hit that super sticker or super thanks. I'd really like to give some money away today. So I'd really appreciate your support. All right, one of our Facebook members says, follow up. Tips for letting go of someone you have a lot of history with, a lot of great positives, deep connection, but his wounds are too deep right now. He can't fully meet me in a relationship. We have been together on and off, and I've held hope. I want you to Google or go to YouTube and look up cord cutting ceremony. Cord cutting ceremony. You might have an energetic cord with this person and invite you to do a cord cutting ceremony. Number one, I invite you to do a mini detox from the person. Block this person from your cell phone, block or remove them from your social media. So you have just a detox from them. Have some distance. Take a 3 to 6 month break. You can say to one another, I really appreciate your life. I'm just going to take a break from social media and connecting with you for a little bit so I can come back to my center. And this is a time to focus on your own healing in this place. Believe me, you might feel for years. It took me years to get over my significant relationship after my divorce because I gave my power away to this person. And one of the things I recognize now was the importance of really diving into my own sovereignty in the 5 years after that relationship ended. And here's the thing, when relationship ends, it's like an unraveling of the tapestry of your own life. And it's important to reestablish yourself so you can then maybe reconnect with someone in the future. And yes, meeting people, connecting on dating sites, I think those are just distractions. And I don't think it's fair to another person. If you're ruminating over another person in your life, it's not fair to a new person to engage in connection with them. That's my point. Anyway, I think you'd hate it if a guy did it to you, dislike it, excuse me, if a guy did it to you, and I invite you to be mindful of that as well. Carolyn from our Facebook group says your men care about your vagina comment actually helped me more than you know. So many of us avoid intimacy or dating because of physical insecurities. I get it. Have you ever seen that meme? There's this man, heavy set man looking in the mirror, and he's got like this, and he sees an Adonis inside the mirror. He sees Arnold, Schwarzenegger. Women look, there's this gorgeous woman looking in the mirror, and she sees this big heavy set woman in the mirror, and she's looks like Barbie. Okay, isn't it fascinating how men can see the best in themselves, and women see the worst in themselves when it comes to body image? I think a lot of this was perpetuated by Cosmo magazine and all the beauty enhancements and that sort of thing. So you women are almost at this disadvantage because you've been bombarded through advertising saying you're ugly. The right man appreciates me for the way I look. The right man sees my heart. The right man loves my body. You don't need every man to love you. You just need the right man. And that's my invitation for you, Carolyn. Okay? Elena wants to remind everyone I talked about cord cutting ceremony. I want everyone, as soon as this video is over, and by the way, hit that like button for this video. Please share it with your friends. I want you to type in to the search bar, cord cutting ceremony. Start reading up on it. Okay? Thanks for reminding us. Nobleness Nutrition. Avoidant partner had sexual abuse in teen years. He's now 51. Could this contribute to a lack of intimacy now that he states he's emotionally connected with me? Oh my God, yes. I've spoken to several men who have been sexually abused as boys, and that caused them to have some real significant challenges bonding with women because they have a real fear of intimacy. They were super traumatized. I know a man who's been working on his stuff for years, and believe me, think about that. What a sad thing to have happen. This happens to women. It happens to it happens to young girls. It happens to boys. To be sexually abused, that's a hard one to recover from. Some people don't ever recover from them. It doesn't make them bad people. It just makes them people that, from my purview, they need a lot of our love, and maybe with the right dose of communication between the two of you and the right plan, you can maybe find that way to connect with one another. But it really does require a lot of healthy communication between two people. And I invite using a therapist or a counselor to help as well. Hey, I want to give Heather some props for the $4.99 super sticker. Big hugs to you. Thank you so much. She just Jutter says he might have recovered from the abuse. Many sex abuse people go on to normal adult lives and marriages. Take it slow. Yes, I'm in full agreement of that. Debbie just wants to remind us, I agree about health and going to his place. I think she's talking about the gym. I think gyms, I think mind, body, soul, emotion, mind, body, spirit, emotions, mind, body, spirit, emotions, mind, learning things, watching videos, reading books, enrich our minds. Body, physically working out, movement, Do you know a person with heart disease can oftentimes live longer than the person who is relatively healthy, because the person with heart disease exercises on a regular basis? Body, spirit, connecting with your divine self, reading the books I recommend. This is a great way to connect with spirit. And emotions, mindfulness, regulating our emotions. Do you know the hardest things most humans have is the ability to regulate their emotions? We expect others to be a certain way so they don't trigger us, rather than when we get triggered, regulating our own emotions, having compassion for the person that triggered us, try to get some understanding of why they triggered us, rather than making them change. How about we work from the inside out, which actually creates an opportunity for the other person to work from the inside out? Triggers can be a good thing, believe it or not. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating? Please let me know. If it is, can everyone say to me a quick amen right now? Jonathan, this is resonating with me. If it is, please share this video with your friends. Please subscribe to my channel. Please donate to the Connor Asley Scholarship Fund. Tell your friends about my work. And if you need some support, check out the links below to connect with me. I love connecting with people. I love it. One of my passions in life is making a difference in people's lives. And hopefully, if you've been watching my channel, I've been making a difference in your life as well. All right. Let's see. Elena says, amen, Jonathan. This is resonating with me. I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you so much. Jeanette says, this video is good that it's live. Yeah, I have fun with that. Carolyn wants to say, yes, amen. I appreciate that. I got time for one more question. If you have a question, write the word question and post the question thereafter. Someone gave me this mug that says, I make the world go around. What do you do? Is that narcissistic? You know, to some degree, we are the creators of our reality. So we do individually make our world go around. It's how we perceive the world. This is why I like the book, The Course in Miracles. It allows us to look beyond the surface of the way the world is and recognize that we have a divine connection to Gus, God, universe, spirit. And I'm a big proponent of encouraging everyone, particularly those of us who are people pleasers, the nice girl habits, of recognizing that, you know, relationships are not the end all be all of things. The most important relationship you have with yourself, and the relationships we enter into, whether they're short-term or long-term or not, the invitation with most everyone that enters your life is an opportunity to grow. And some people you grow with, some people you don't grow with. That's okay too. Especially for those, you know, folks that are in their 60s or 70s, you know, the days in front of you are shorter than the days behind you. I invite you to suck the marrow out of life, not so dependent upon being with someone else, but learning to love oneself in the process of connecting with another human being, good, bad, or ugly. And so even if it's an experience you don't wish to have, ask yourself, what positive things did I learn about myself from this experience? What was good about this experience? And what am I most grateful for? All right. I think this will be, oh, by the way, Jessica, thanks for the $5 super sticker. We really appreciate it. Can you ask someone to improve a physical aspect, say bad teeth? You know, if someone's gotten to this point in their life and they've accepted their flaws, you know, my question is, and I can recognize this, I think in the movie Austin Powers, the first one, she made reference to his teeth. It can be rather expensive to do that kind of work. So, you know, here's the thing. Speak your truth. Do it from a kind place. And if it's sincere and from the heart, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. I say that in my book. So find out what your truth is. Try to devise a way to say it in a kind way. You know, if this is a deal breaker for you, then bring it up. If this is an absolute deal breaker for you, bring it up and then see what happens from there. Melanie, amen. The wrapped candles burning worked for me. My stalker stopped and I got back with the next. Okay, great for you. Woohoo. Hey, I want to give props to Nobleness Nutrition. Thank you for the $20 super sticker. Yay. How do I know that a man is really interested in me at the gym? I'm concerned that the men only want sex. Also, I think there are other ladies in the gym with better bodies than mine, so I tend to look the other way. First off, every man is interested in sex. Yours truly. I think of sex all day long, okay? So yes, we men are interested in sex. I want to jump Marie's bones all the time. Okay. With that said, how do you know he's interested in you? Walk up to him. Say, hi, my name is Melanie. What's yours? What kind of workouts do you do? Can you help me with this? Can you help me over here with this, this device? Do you have any ideas of how to improve? Just start a conversation with them. If he's interested, he'll engage with you. If he's not, if he's in a relationship with someone else, then you don't have to pine for him anymore. And yes, you know, other women have great bodies. Okay. We're competing with everyone, whether we like it or not. So, but guess what? If there's a real interest in you, he's going to pursue it. And yes, he'll pursue sex too. That's who we are. We're guys. Get over it. Angela, the old saying, you get to a man through his stomach is it still true? You know, I don't know if that's still true. I think men can appreciate a woman can cook. I like cooking together. That turns me on more. But I think if that's your only love language, you're really lacking if that's your only love language, which I highly doubt, Angela. But yeah, you know, that's an act of service. From the 5 love languages, the act of service, making food, that's certainly but it's, you know, stomach is a part of it, but it's not going to sustain a relationship. Trust me, if that's all you bring to the table. And I know that's not what you said. She says men don't care about food. They care about sex. Yeah, we care about sex. We care about food. We care about quiet. We care about a lot of things. But what's most important is when you've established a strong bond with another through social activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends, traveling together, teamwork, building skills, both in your personal and your professional life, intimacy, both physical and emotional intimacy, that will lead to either moving in together or getting married with someone. Those are the ways you bond with a man. Is this sinking in? All right, you know what? I think this would be a great place to wrap up. I'm off to do a plant-based medicine spiritual journey today. I'm looking forward to doing a deep dive into some healing that I need to do right now in my life. And I invite you all to explore how you can heal within yourself, particularly these nice girl habits all women need to break. And I invite you all to break that people-pleasing habit. All right, I'm going to take one more question because it's from a guy. So Brian writes, what if they tell you you're not a priority now, but you will be? Well, I want to find out why you're not a priority right now. Remember the word priority? Listen, a person could be in the middle of a work project. That's a priority for them. Maybe they're helping their children study for the SATs. That's another type form of priority. Maybe they're in a deep dive into healing. That's another priority. I'm a big believer that when you're in a relationship with someone, they should be equally as important as all the other important things in their life. It's not higher or lower. There are times where we might have to give more energy towards something in our lives temporarily, but I believe, Brian, I hope this helps. When you're in relationship with someone, their level of importance should be equal to all the other important things in their lives, okay? Particularly if you've agreed to be in a relationship with someone. So, and if they're not willing to make you important, then you go focus on what you need to do. Let them focus on what they need to do. And if you happen to be still available then revisit the relationship. Does that help, Ryan? I hope so. All right. Wait, what is she? Okay, well, I hope that helped answer that question. Folks, I'm going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, giving myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera, excuse my armpit stains, give you a hug of love. I'm asking you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow, and give it or them a hug of love. There's a teddy bear. because hugs are a great source of love, and we can all use more love in our lives. And Elena says, thank you for another great conversation, Jonathan. I appreciate it. I want to thank Elena and TFB and She Juxter and Brian and Tess and Melanie and Noble Nutrition, Lightworker Laura, Angela, Isabel, Facebook members, Carolyn, Erica, Noreen, Jeanette, Debbie, Carolyn, I said that. Everyone, thanks so much. Have a fab day. Be well. Thanks. Bye now.